How's it going, friends? I hope you're doing well today. Today, I want to do something a little bit different. So far for my mid-year update, I've only done nonfiction audiobooks, and I wanted to talk about the sci-fi and fantasy that I've read so far, but I didn't want to do like the normal video that I usually do with that, which would just be talking about each of them. So today I want to tier rank them, which will be an interesting experience for everyone involved because I've never done this before. It'll be really hard to stack them up against each other because for the most part, I really liked all of these. So saying that one is better than the other is going to be tricky, but I'll do my best, and I think this will be a lot of fun. Okay, so first up we have Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I listened to this as an audiobook, and mostly because of just how popular it is on TikTok. I think that it's just really important to know like the cultural pillars of any given moment, and so I wanted to read this, and I liked it. It was definitely enjoyable while I was reading it, but looking back, I don't remember it super well, and it didn't completely stand out to me. So I'm going to put this at a solid B. I think that it's some really good writing. I can see why a lot of people like it, but it just wasn't my absolute favorite sort of style and aesthetic. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't blown away by the magic system. I thought that it was fairly minimal, which I get I get why that works narratively with this story, but I would have liked to see more of it. Yeah, so that's Six of Crows. Okay, so up next, let's talk about Percy Jackson. Percy Jackson is a book series that I never read as a child. I think a lot of people my age read this when they were in elementary school, and I wish I was part of that crowd at the time. I was just reading other stuff. I was reading Harry Potter and Warriors and all these other great books, but I never read Percy Jackson. So that's something that I really wanted to do this year, and I've only read the first one so far, but pretty soon I'm going to start moving on to the other books in the series. But for The Lightning Thief, I really enjoyed it. I had a great time with it. I'm going to put it at A tier. We'll see where it falls in the A tier. I'm not sure if it'll be like bottom or middle, probably not top of A tier. But I really had a lot of fun with it, and it was a great break after I'd read some longer books as well. So I definitely really enjoyed Percy Jackson. What shall we put next? Okay, let's do Fugitive Telemetry, which is a book in the Murderbot Diaries. This one I was a little bit disappointed by. I think with a lot of the other Murderbot books, I was very engaged and I just loved every minute of them, and this one wasn't quite at that level for me. So this one chronologically was released after Network Effect, which is the first Murderbot novel, but this doesn't follow with that narratively. So it isn't, I was hoping it would be a continuation of that storyline, but it's just kind of separate from that, which I wasn't expecting. So I think right off the bat, that was a little disappointment. That's not the book's fault. That's just my fault. But I think I was looking forward to getting some more of the storyline that was covered in Network Effect. This, however, it was really good on its own, but I think comparing it with the other Murderbot books, it just didn't live up to my expectations. And yeah, I think I'm going to put this at a C. I liked it. I enjoyed reading it, but it just wasn't at the level that I know that Murderbot can be at, and so it was on the lower side for me. I think I still gave this like 4 stars or something. Was not a bad book at all by any stretch of the imagination. I feel bad. This is hard. Okay, next I'm going to do Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. This book has been on my TBR for like so long. Ever since I started getting back into reading, this has been on my radar as something that I want to read. And it was the first book that I read this year. I just like got right on that this year. And I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I don't think I liked it as much as some people like it, but I still really liked it. It was still a great time. Brandon Sanderson's one of my favorite authors. The magic system, if you haven't heard about it, is just so well realized. And the way that the magic system is used is just perfect for the story. I'm going to put this at S tier. That's going to be the first S tier today. If you didn't know, it's a heist story, which just on its own lends itself to a really like tight plot, which I thought was really good. I mean, the ending is absolutely incredible. If you've never read Brandon Sanderson before, there's a thing we like to call a Sanderlanche, where like right at the end of the story, everything comes together and it's just so good. So I really liked Mistborn. That's going to go in S tier. While we're at it, let's do the other books in the Mistborn trilogy. Well of Ascension. This was also really good, and it was a lot better than I was expecting. after the first book, I just was not sure where it was going to go, but I really liked the direction it took. I was nervous that it would run out of steam after the first book, and it definitely did not. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did, because I was just nervous about having it be a sequel. So that's going to go top of A for now. Really, really good still. Definitely something that I'll be recommending to people. Yeah, and then Hero of Ages, that's going to go back up to S. I think that it kind of dipped in the middle, but then Hero of Ages. Okay, up next, let's talk about Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. So this one I was debating whether or not to put in here because it is a short story. Like, it can't really compare to any of these in terms of complexity or plot line or character development. But there is a good amount of that despite it being such a short story. I think it's like 4. So I'm going to put this bottom of B because for what it's trying to do, it does it incredibly well. But compared to these longer books, they just have more complex plot and a lot more complexity that they can go into just based on the size of them. It can't really compare, but really, really good literature. If you've never read any Kafka, definitely check it out. It's definitely like low. I would say it's Kafka-esque, but it's literally by Kafka. Yeah, bottom of B for that. Definitely worth reading. Okay, next up is Kings of the Wild. So this is the first book in the Band series. Right now, there's only 2 books out for that. And I think the author, Nicholas Eames, is working on the 3rd right now. But so I read Kings of the Wild and I loved it. It was so much fun. It's about a middle-aged guy who used to be in a really famous monster hunting band. And so bands in this world are treated like rock stars and they go around doing all these missions and stuff. And one of his old bandmates comes to him and asks him to go on one last vitally important quest. At the beginning, it was a little hard for me to like get into the plot. I wasn't as much invested at the start, but by the end I loved all the characters and they were just so much fun to watch on their journey. So I'm gonna put this in middle of A. Yeah, I'll be recommending this book to a lot of people. I've got a whole review about it if you want to go check that out too. Okay, next up is A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. So this book is sci-fi, it's a novella, and it is utopian solar punk. So quite a vibe already. We follow sibling Dex, who is a tea monk on the moon of Panga, and sibling Dex becomes the first person to make contact with robots in 1,000 years. So we get to see what that's like and how these characters interact. And by these characters, I mean sibling Dex and the robot that they encounter. This book just made me so calm. I'm going to put this at top of A. I am currently rereading it. The fact that I'm already rereading it gives you an indication of how much I enjoyed this book. So that's going to go top of A. If you're looking for something that'll just relax you and be just a fun, light read, definitely check this out. The sequel also just came out, which I'm so excited to read. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. So this book was interesting. It's about what might happen if a bunch of unknown objects appeared in every city on Earth all at once. So essentially they're these kind of like giant robot looking statues called Carls, and the world's reaction to Carls. And so we follow someone who's kind of at the epicenter of this occurrence. And I think in concept, it's really, really good. In terms of my enjoyment, I think it was like kind of mid for me. There are a lot of directions it could have gone, and the one it went on I don't think was the most engaging per se. I know a lot of people who love this book, and I liked it. I don't want to rag on it, but I wasn't like blown away by it. Was it enjoyable? Definitely. This is going to go top of B. Really solid, but probably not up there with these others just yet. On the other hand, the sequel, A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor, this one I liked a lot more. This one, it just explored some territory that I found so interesting, and it was definitely more sci-fi than the first one. I know that sounds weird because they're both in the sci-fi genre, but it has more exploration of the concepts that are opened up in the first. I liked the way that the plot of this one unfolded a lot better. I like that it centered some other characters than they did in the first. I'm gonna put this right above Percy Jackson. I think it was a very solid book, and I think it's a big improvement from Hank Green's first one. I listened to it as an audiobook too, which I think is definitely a good move for this one. Oh, I didn't do the sequel. Okay, so the sequel to Kings of the Wild is called Bloody Rose. I liked this one. I don't think I liked it quite as much as the first one, but I'm going to put this top of B. I really enjoyed it. It was, also a really fun fantasy story. I don't think I was as invested in the characters as I was with the first one. I think a lot of the appeal of the first one is that the characters are a lot different from what we usually see in fantasy, and we get some other great characters in this one, but I just wasn't as much into this story. That said, still really good. I listened to the audiobook for this one too, and I think that might have detracted from my experience. So I'd recommend reading this one physically if you'd like. Okay, The Cat Who Saved Books. This one I enjoyed, but I just don't think it compares to a lot of the others on this list. I'm going to put this bottom of C. It was good. I enjoyed it while I was reading it, but I don't find myself thinking about it too often. It doesn't really stand out in my mind now that it's been a few months. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This one was a lot of fun. I listened to this as an audiobook, and that was just such a great experience for me. There were times where I would just sit on the couch and stare at nothing and listen to this book. Usually when I listen to audiobooks, I'll do other stuff while I listen, but this one I was hooked and engaged the whole time, and I really, really liked it. So this is going to go bottom of S. I do recommend the audiobook for sure. I saved a bunch of good ones for last. Okay, Fellowship of the Ring. This one I'm about to finish. I'm just going to right off the bat put it right there, middle of S. I can see why this is a renowned classic of fantasy. I think reading this now is giving me a lot of context for some modern series that I've already read. I can see where the tropes come from. I can see where the questing fantasy sort of vibe comes from. This is such a cool experience for me. And having grown up with the movies, it's a lot of fun to see the source material finally. So very much enjoying it. It definitely is slow paced. That is not an exaggeration when someone tells you that this is very slow paced. That said, I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's been a good experience for me. So yeah, that's going to go middle of S. Left Hand of Darkness. Okay, this one's going to go top of A. Conceptually, I love this book. In terms of my enjoyment as I was reading it, it was a little less than some of the others that I've read. Actually, I'll put this above or below Well of Ascension. I think conceptually I like it a lot better than Well of Ascension, but in terms of my actual enjoyment during the reading of it, I wasn't as thrilled the whole time. It was a less hedonistic book, more intellectually engaging, I guess. So very, very good book by Ursula K. Le Guin. If you're not familiar, it's about an emissary who's sent to a planet where there is no sexual prejudice, and sort of the culture shock of that, and how he engages with the people on this planet, coming from a world more like ours where there is sexual prejudice. Ursula K. Le Guin's a fantastic writer as it is, so definitely worth checking out. I'll do the other Ursula Le Guin one right now, The Lathe of Heaven. This one for me is going to go near the top of S. Actually, I'll put this above Mistborn. I really, really enjoyed The Lathe of Heaven. If you enjoyed high school psychology and you like dystopian literature, then definitely check out The Lathe of Heaven. It's about a guy who inadvertently can control the world with his dreams. A psychotherapist named Dr. Haber comes into his life and tries to use that skill to his advantage to achieve his own ends. And so it gets super morally gray, super complex ethically, and it's just such a masterful work. So yeah, The Lathe of Heaven is fantastic. And then last but not least, The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. This is going to go top of A for me. I really liked it, but I can tell it was a first book in the trilogy. Wherever the trilogy goes from here, I'm super excited, but I think that I could tell it wasn't the culmination of the story. Actually, I think I'll put this below A Psalm for the Wild Built just because of that. I think while I was reading it, I was enjoying it, but I wasn't hyped the whole time, if that makes sense. But I am super excited to see where this trilogy goes, because I haven't read those yet. I've heard that Joe Abercrombie is just a very, very talented writer, and I would definitely agree with that. So thank you so much for watching. This has been my first tier list ever. Also, quick update, I just got a Patreon. So if you're interested in supporting me for as little as $1 a month, the link is in the description. For $1 a month, you get access to a book club that's going to be starting once I get my Discord server up and running. Thank you again for watching, and until next time, peace.